I think I'm going to make some patriotic chicken. So this is going to be some patriotic crafts. This will be my first for this year. I know it's early, but you got to have them ready, right? So I am using, where'd it go? Here it is. Antique White by Apple Barrel. And I'll probably have to give it 2 coats. And then I'm going to use Navy by Dixie Belle and Burgundy by Folk Art, and then one of these 2 for the beak. I'm not really sure which one. But that's the colors I'm planning on using. And I have drilled 2 holes in this because I think I'm going to put the wire on it and make it a hanger. Let it hang. I'm going to finish painting this white, and then I'll start on probably the red. Now I'm starting on the red, and like I said, I am using Burgundy by Folk Art. And I'll do the comb and the, what is that, the wattle? Can't breathe when I'm trying to go straight, paint straight. I have to hold my breath. All right, I think I'm going to use the salted caramel for the beak. Yeah, I like that color. I did have Golden Sunset out, but I thought it'd look better to have just a little bit darker. Okay, I need to straighten that up some. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Navy, with Dixie Belle Navy. That will be on the tail. And I'll just paint this, and then I'm going to have to, I got to do some more stuff to it. I got to figure out what I'm doing. I just kind of figure things out as I go. I have an idea, like on the colors, but I look at it and I think, oh, that needs something, and I'll have to figure something out. Now, I think I'm going to just put some blue polka dots on him. Just using the tip of my brush. I'm just going sporadically somewhere, trying to make it look right. Put one right there, and then I need to leave that open so I can put the eye if I want an eye. I think that's getting it fine. Kind of just went off there, there. And off that side. Okay, I think, oh, I need one right here. And then one off up here. Okay, that looks good. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. And I've got to let that dry very well because it's puddled. Now what I'm working on is I want a pocket to go on my chicken. And this was to me, just a little bright with the white and stuff. So I sprayed some coffee dye on it that I have. It's just water and instant coffee that I keep to spray. I don't think it's quite dark enough. I mean, it could be. But I am going to spray just a little more on here. And take some coffee. Instant coffee. I'm going to crumble that up really fine. I don't have a lot. I think that will work. Now, I'm going to let that dry, and I didn't use very much. In fact, I may run this and help it dry. I've taken the little pocket that I'm going to make, and I'm doing a running stitch on it to make it look like it's going to be sewed on. And I'm just going in and out with it. I'm not trying to be real particular on how I'm doing it. And my chicken is still drying, those little polka dots. They're almost dry, but they're still drying. I'm going to finish doing this. I'm going to go ahead and put an eye on there. This almost dry, and I think that's going to be good. I think about right. There. Yeah, that's good. And it's smaller than the other dots. Now I have to let that dry before we do anything else. All right, I was sitting here thinking on what to do. And while that's drying, I cut out a star. And I think I'm going to drill a hole right there and hang this star from it. And I'm trying to figure out what color to paint it. I don't know if I want it the red, white, or blue. I think the red would show up more, but I've got that in red. I'm going to sit here and figure out what color I'm going to use. I've decided to go white. Now, I'm going to go around the edges with the walnut distress ink. And I'll go around the star also. Now, I'm going to glue this little pocket on. I've got my hot glue gun. Put it on with that. And now I don't want to burn myself. Yeah, one shot. And I got it up too high. It'll be all right. Can't get it down any further. Okay, now got some little bit of seltzer and some moss, Spanish moss. Just going to stick some of that down in there. It is wanting to come up. Maybe I can get it up. I think I'm going to have to glue it down with something besides hot glue. It's getting where hot glue doesn't do what it used to. Okay, so I'm going to get something else to glue it down with, and then I'll have to let that dry. I'm using some Aleene's Quick Dry Tacky Glue, and it's tacky glue. Uh-oh. Oh, no. I was thinking that repositionable. Tack it over and over. That's what it was. But, oh, no. But it's not. It's thick, and I had to put it on with a stick. Okay, I need some right there. Okay. Get that out of my way. Now, I don't want to put this on in the wrong place, but I don't have to worry about getting burned. Okay, right there. And I left a little pocket area. But I do have to let this dry now because I can't stuff anything in there with it wet. I went ahead and put my sisal and some Spanish moss in there. And I used some jute. And I ran that double through there and tied it like that. It wasn't easy. I had to twirl it, but I couldn't get it done up here. And I remembered I had some of these little pins like this. And I stuck that through there and put the jute rope on that to let that hang. And I also put polka dots on there like I did with the chicken. Only I done those in red. And then I've got some little flowers here that I'm going to start sticking in there and see how they look. Just sticking them in and at first, see what they look like. I'm going to cut these apart here. Okay. There's some white that I have. I have to cut that off and probably cut off some of the leaves so it'll go down in there. Well, now I left out some of the moss over here just in case I need some. Just stuff down in there. Anyways, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep messing with this and putting those little flowers down in there. And then I'm going to have to get, I think I'm going to use the wire up there. So I'll have to get the wire. And I don't know what else, if I'll do anything else past that or not. I got the flowers in there, and now I am going to put the wire on. I pre-drilled the holes, so I didn't use a really big bit. I'll tell you, it's little. Okay. Where's the at? Right there. And I'm just going to twirl that with my needle nose. Okay, and I'm going to twirl some up here on the wire itself up here. Pull that out. And then feed, let's see, do I want Probably wouldn't hurt to have some about right in there. Some twirls. And then I've got to feed that in there. Okay, that's a little too much wire. That will work. I'll cut a little bit of this off. And then twirl the rest of it with my needle nose. Okay, push that up like that. All right, I think that is finished. Well, I had a rooster I was going to do, a wood rooster, but I didn't have any inspiration for it. I wasn't coming up with anything. I've sat and looked at it, and it'll hit me. One day I'll look at it and think, oh yeah, if I don't lose it and can't find it before then. Anyways, I've decided I want to do, I've done this doll before, and she turned out adorable. I think she turned out cuter than this picture myself. But I thought I'd make her into kind of an Americana doll. So I've went and dug out material that I thought would work. And I'm going to go through this and see what I can come up with. I'm only going to need like 2 colors, actually. Yeah, probably just 2 colors. And then maybe one for the apron. Need for the hat, the dress, and the apron. So, I'm going to pick my colors, and I'll come back. Well, I've picked out the colors I believe I'm going to use. I think I'm going to use this one for the dress, this for the apron, and this for the hat. And I think that will be cute. So, I've got to, this is all too bright. I'm going to coffee dye my material. So, I'm going to cut out how much I need of each color, and then I am going to go in there. I got some coffee in my refrigerator. I mix it up, and then when I need it, I'll warm it a little bit, and then I pour it in a bowl and put my material in there, and then pull it out and wring it out, and I'll put that back in the bowl and put it in the refrigerator. And that's what I'm going to use. And I'll probably stick this in the oven so it can dry a little faster. And I'm going to get started on her. And I forgot to let you know, this is a Prindle Mountain Primitives pattern, and she's on Etsy, and I'll leave the link below. I have done this pattern before, and it turned out so cute. Okay, I have my body traced out for my doll. It's doubled the fabric. I have the arms and the legs traced out, doubled the fabric, 2 arms, 2 legs. And I'll take those in a minute to sew up. But now I'm working on, this is for the top of the dress. I'll show you this material, how I folded it. I've just folded this down to where this will fit on there. Then I am going to bring it back this way, because this has to be on a fold and this has to be on a fold. And I don't want to waste any material. So I will just trace that, so I have that to sew up. And then this is a bonnet. This is the bonnet. Okay, this has to be on a fold here. No sense in wasting material. Pull that down some. Get enough that I have to cut it out. Okay, what I'll do, put that on the edge there. And this is on the fold. And I'll just trace around that, and that will be ready to cut out. Now, this has to be on the fold. I do have to cut 2 of these. So let me see. I may pull this down more. There's enough there. Yeah, there's enough room for 2 out of that. So I'll trace one here. This has to be on the fold. There's the fold. And then I'll trace one here because I have to have 2 of these and only 1 of these. And this is for the bonnet. So I'm going to trace all this stuff and I'm going to take it to my machine and sew it up. So far, this is what I've done. I got this out of the oven. It's dry. This is the bottom of the dress. And I've just run a seam down each side. And now I'm going to increase the length of my stitch. And I'm just going to run across the top. And that's going to be my gathering stitch. But I'm making the length as big as it'll go on my machine. I believe it's a 5. Yeah, it's 5. So I'm going to leave it there and do the running stitch on there. I'll probably double it. And so that'll be where I can gather the dress up, the bottom of the dress. Okay, I've cut a little slit right here because I'm going to seam that up. And then that on the hat, or I did that on this somewhere right there. Now from this there, I am going to go around here with one of my large stitches because I've got to ruffle this also to fit around the brim of the hat. So I'll take the large stitch all the way around, and then I will gather it to fit around the brim of the hat. Now I've taken the hat part and I pulled it up and I matched it to the brim of the hat, as you can see. Now I'll go start on one side and just sew this onto the brim of the hat. And I'll try not to hit those stitches there because I want to pull that out when I'm finished. Okay, now I've got it sewn all the way around, and it is a little hat now. And then we'll take and put some ribbon on here to tie around the neck. So now I'm going to go on to the little dress, and I'll have to pull ruffles in it the same way. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to do the larger stitch, and I'm going to go real close to the edge so I can, this is the waist of the dress, so I can gather it up. All right, I'm going to take this top and I am going to run it right up underneath there and line it up with the edge of the dress. The dress, the bottom part's inside out. This is right side out. When I get that up in there, I'll fit it up in there like that, where it's even with the top. And then I'll run a seam. My hand's in the way. I'll run a seam all the way around, but this will be inside there. I'll start it and then I'll come back and show you what I'm doing. I have fed the dress up through there, and I've pinned it on the sides. Now I'm going to catch it right here, this to that, and I'm going to sew this onto the top. Now, I want to show you where I'm at. I have my dress sewn. And on the apron, you're supposed to have sewn the apron part. You're supposed to get a 6x12 and have a hand gathering, stitch it up, and you're supposed to pin it before you sew it to this to the bottom of the dress. And then when you sew it on, this would be built in, sewed in with the top and the bottom. I didn't do that. I just got a piece of material here. Let's see, it's probably 18 inches long here. I just made sure it went around. My doll would go around my doll and tie in the back. And I'll just put it on like that. So that's ready to go. I think that's really cute. And I just used a better grade cheesecloth that I got off of Amazon. And then for my hat, I have that sewn up. And I am going to, I'll have to go back to my sewing machine because I want to make a, I'm going to take a piece of either this or this to make a little strap on each side of the hat where I can tie the hat on, or the bonnet onto my doll. And this in here was supposed to have some, I can't even think, backing, stuff that makes it a little more stiff. My mind has just went bleh. Anyways, I'm going to stop there with that. And then I finished sewing up my doll itself, the legs and the arms. And I'm going to take my pinking shears and go around all this. And I will clip a little more poly back in here so that, because you can see that dips in there and you will get a bad pucker there. But do not cut into the sewing part, the thread. And I'm going to turn it inside out and I'm going to start stuffing it the same with the arms and the legs. Now, I wanted to show you that I wouldn't just sew these on here so I can tie her bonnet on. It's just, I think I used this one right here. And then on her body, I've stuffed her, and I've stuffed her really, really good. She's tight till you get down here. And then I've left some space because I took about 1/4 of a baggie of kitty litter and filled that about 1/4 full, and then I tied it off. Then I'm going to do that, you know, kind of crunch it like that. And then stick it in right here, and I'll sew her shut. And that will help when she goes, I need to set her up, she'll set up. And I think you're actually supposed to sew the legs in here. But I'm just going to sew this up, and I'll have it, it'll probably be pulled out like that. And then I'm just going to hot glue my legs on, because that's what I done with my other doll that I made, and it worked perfectly. Nobody's going to see it. In fact, I didn't even make bloomers for this one. The other one had bloomers. You don't see it, so I saw no need to do it. So I didn't make the bloomers, and I'm going to hot glue my arms and my legs on. Now, I'm going to put this in here and get a needle and thread and shut this up. Now, I have that all stitched up, and I've stuffed my legs and my arms. And your feet need to go like this. Don't be putting them on where they're like that. Got to make sure that the seam is in the middle. And then I've stuffed them and then just sewed them shut so far up because they don't need to be stuffed up very far. And now I'm going to paint her boots before I put her legs on. I'll have to let them dry. But I'm going to paint them this dark blue. If I don't like it, I can go over it in black. I think that will be fine. It's down here. I didn't have to get up and get the black. But I'm going to paint this blue, both feet, and this is the boots. Let it dry, and then I'll come back and we'll put it all together. My legs are still drying, the boots. And I took a needle and some embroidery thread, and I just made a running stitch all the way around the neck. I started the first stitch right here and went around and ended up right here. So now I'll just go that up, and I'll probably tie a knot in it because I want to make sure it stays. And should I ever want to undo it, I can just cut the thread. All right, there's that. And then I went ahead and I put the arms on. And as soon as I get the legs, they're totally dry because I don't want to get them on anything. I'll put those on, and then I'll put the apron and the little hat and see what else I'm going to do to it. All right, I have her all finished. I sewed her legs on. And now I need to put something in her arms. So I'm going to work on that now. Now, I think I want her holding a heart. So I made a heart in Silhouette Studio. And I had it too large, I thought. So I went in and redone it. Printed it out on the same paper to keep from wasting paper. That's why that's there. It worked. I can still see it. But I have a plan of painting it like this. This will be blue up here with a few stars. And then the stripes, I've got red, white, red, white, red. So I'm going to, I trace that off. I'm going to take that to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew it. And I'll sew it all the way up because I'll cut it in the back to stuff it. But I will sew it and then I will paint it before I stuff it. And also I made, well, I didn't make this. I already had this from last year. This flag that I've done. I just cut out a piece and, you know, striped it and done that. Some stars. And I already had it finished. So I thought I might use that. And I wanted it to look like it was waving. And you can see that mark right there. Well, I wired a piece. I put a piece of wire on there. And maybe I should have wiped the wire or something. I don't know. But that is that Beacon Quick Tack glue. I just had it flattened on here. And I laid the wire on there and then put the glue over it. But it did leak. But it's primitive. So it's not really, it's not going to matter at all. So I'm going to go sew this up. And start painting this. Now, for this heart, I got some little stars that I cut out sometime. And I need to cover up this. So I just got some paper. Okay, there's red going there. I'm just going to stencil these little stars on. I don't know how much they'll look like stars, but there'll be something on there at least. All right, I'll pick it up and put it over here now. Okay, I'll let that dry for just a little bit. And then I'm going to stuff the heart